think it looks like the team is ready to go. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Karima. So what is our centralized career development curriculum? All of our curriculum is custom made by us here at UVic. And when we often think of curriculum, we think of courses. But fundamentally, our co-op and career curriculum are all the resources that we house on our career services website to support students with their career development at all stages of their time while they're at UVic and beyond as alumni. On the bottom right of the slide here, you'll see that there's a link. We will be providing our PowerPoint to everybody afterwards. That is the link that takes you to our career services resources, and we encourage you to have a look. Our curriculum shows up in all that we do in our offerings to students when they actively engage in their career learning opportunities. Our career services website houses about 200 accessible pages of career development resources that are accessibility driven for navigation, writing, and content. They're screen reader and mobile friendly as well. And they meet the BC accessibility legislation in relation to web content accessibility guidelines. All of our curriculum and everything that we do on the co-op side of things as well is accredited by Cooperative Education Work Integrated Learning Canada. That's accredited by CWEL, the second bullet there, which is a Canadian organization that supports post-secondary institutions across our country, also engaging with community members, employers, and students, and has deep connections with government as well. So all of our co-op programs meet all the CWIL quality program criteria, as I said, are accredited by CWIL Canada. Next slide, please. Consistency is really, really important to us. We pay a lot of attention to this because our curriculum shows up as in a lot of different places across our campus. So for example, our centralized curriculum will show up in workshops that any student on campus can engage with, shows up in career coaching. So that's one-on-one career coaching that our our career educators take part in. It could show up in our career fairs, all of the different co-op programs, employer information sessions, as well as course-based learning through our community engaged learning part of our unit. It also shows up in support that our career educators do with our UVic alumni. Next slide, please.
All right, so this is just one sample journey of a student that might be experiencing at UVic here. Of course, there's a lot of different points at which any student might engage with our curriculum and with us. So this example here, right from the time that a student is a prospective student, they could be considering their short and long-term career goals and how UVic's curriculum can support them when they're choosing their school. They might already have a goal, company or industry in mind that they're thinking about and how their degree can help build for that. Then in second year, they join co-op. They're taking their Introduction to Professional Practice, their IPP course, which is our co-op prep course here. And that's when they learn a lot of our skills for how to apply for a job. They would take their mock interview, which we also have employers that will come and work with the students as interviewers for their exercise. So that might be the first opportunity that a student has to engage with an employer and to network and chat. We have then when they start to go out on their first co-op jobs, so they'll be applying for jobs, conducting the interviews, using everything that they learned from IPP to hopefully find that first job. And that's when they'll engage with our competency framework, They'll be setting learning objectives for their work term and then marking their competency development throughout the work term. At any point in the degree, they can come for resume help or any of our other workshops or career supports that we offer. So to help, whether it's with their co-op opportunities or with their long-term career plans. And then we continue to support our students after they graduate as alumni. So they can come back and speak with a career educator and plan out their career plans and get assistance from that.
So just to dig in just a little bit deeper, this is a screenshot of a landing page for one of our IPP courses. So as Jada mentioned, IPP stands for Introduction to Professional Practice. All of our IPP courses are housed in UVic's Learning Management System, LMS, which is called Brightspace at UVic. So the courses are offered kind of in a hybrid model where they have access to their courses online, and then they would meet with their co-op coordinator as their course instructor in person. So it's a combination of both synchronous and asynchronous learning. Students really, as Jada had mentioned, can be in any year to access their program-specific IPP course. So for engineering students, for example, that are in a mandatory co-op, they start their IPP course in year 1. Whereas other students will join in year 2, and that could be business students or students in any of our optional professional programs. So anywhere from social sciences to sciences, humanities, and fine arts, and so on. Once students have successfully completed their IPP courses, that is when they're eligible to access our portal. And that is where all of our the co-op jobs are located and where students start their job search. Next slide, please. This slide is again a screenshot, and it shows you all of the different aspects of our centralized curriculum. So, for example, Tracy, you had mentioned that you engaged with a co-op student. And so Jada's also touched on this, that students will engage with learning around how to write a resume. But before they do that, in Unit 5, they would learn how to deconstruct a job posting. Then they would learn how to create a tailored resume and cover letter so that then they could apply for their mock job in Unit 8. So students will engage in a mock interview exercise so that they get some real world life experience before they actively start looking for jobs and hopefully getting that interview out in the real world. So this is just an example of all of the different topics that would be associated with an IPP course across the spectrum, whether it's in engineering, business, or our optional professional programs, how they show up, how these topics show up will be a little bit different depending on the course and what their program specific requirements are. Next slide, please.
So Meg touched on our co-op and career portal. So when students complete their IPP course, they're given access to the co-op job postings, but that's only one of the things that our co-op and career portal houses. We have various job boards, so both our co-op, our career and general job postings, our volunteer postings that employers can log in and post jobs for, or just send their jobs to us for us to help facilitate the posting of. And students can apply for the jobs through the site. They can also use the portal to register for career fairs, employer info sessions, and other co-op and career events and workshops. They can build a co-curricular record, which is an official record that is not academic like a transcript, but keeps track of their hands-on learning activities where they'll develop competencies that are outside of their registered academic courses. So volunteering, taking various workshops, participating in student government, those kinds of activities. And then, of course, a big component of the co-op student experience is their competency assessment and reflection during their co-op work term. And just to dive a little bit deeper into that, so the competency process, this is something that we try and engage the supervisors with the students and the co-op coordinator. So it's a three-way partnership to help the students learning throughout their work term. So from the very first step at the beginning of the work term, the student in consultation with their supervisor should be setting about 3 to 5 competencies that they have learning objectives for and self-assess where their starting proficiency is in each. The supervisor can then review the learning objectives and consider how their role in supporting the student's development throughout that work term. At the midterm, there'll be a work site visit, which is essentially the coordinator connecting with both the student and the supervisor to see how the student is making out on their work term. And we'll have another competency assessment, the midterm assessment, where the student assesses their progress so far and ranks where they're at. And then the supervisor also gets an opportunity to provide an assessment on the student and their own proficiency ranking. And then that's something that can be discussed during the work term. And we're really, within our competency framework, we're really focusing on the iterative learning of this experience and the reflection component. So then at the end, the final competency assessment. So the student looks back at their learning objectives and assesses where they've come so far, how all of their competency development up to that point, and provide their final proficiency ranking in their competencies. And then the supervisor again has the opportunity to do the same.
Thanks, Jada. So I'm going to highlight the way in which Career Services expresses our curriculum. So a lot of what's been highlighted so far has focused on the way curriculum shows up in our co-op programs, which is, of course, an incredibly important thing that Co-op and Career does. But we're trying to support all students and alumni at Career Services to be career ready or to make career transitions. And so we are, in a very aspirational way, trying to serve 22,000 students and up to 65,000 contactable alumni. I hope they all come to us someday, but not all on the same day. That is, we do that through these one-on-one coaching sessions that both Jada and Meg highlighted a little bit before. And so those are usually 30-minute sessions, but students can book as many as they like with us throughout their career journey. There's actually a maximum lifetime of 98 appointments, so you have a fair bit of room to engage with our curriculum through that. But we also do have drop-in sessions in the library that are shorter 15-minute times that students can come in for a quick career question. And it's often the place that students first encounter us as well, because it's in a space that they're going to all the time. And then we do have career workshops. And then very important as well is class presentations. We do know that students often learn best about career things or anything else when they hear about it from somebody they trust. And so often that's their prof. So we do spend a lot of time doing that outreach to profs to encourage them to have us come to their classrooms and present on career topics in a way that provides information that's relevant to everybody from our career curriculum, but also that is tailored to the discipline and ideally to the, what's happening in that particular course. And then, of course, there are our career events. We've already talked a little bit about career fairs, but we also have kind of pop-up events throughout the year, like Resume Day, where you can just pop by with your resume and get a quick review from a career educator, and also Career Doctor, where we stand there in a lab coat and encourage students to come and ask us any questions to presumably improve their career health outcomes. Next slide, please. I do want to highlight one initiative in particular that really does showcase how we're putting our overall career services curriculum into action. And so that is our Your Career Starts Here course, which we soft launched last year, and we've revised and done a more formal launch this year. So I'm just going to say a few words about that so you get an idea what's in there. It's organized into 4 main modules, and those are those questions that you're seeing across the front in the colored squares. If you're familiar with the Japanese concept of ikigai, these might be familiar to you. So ikigai is, the concept is what gets you up in the morning. And so what do you love? What are you great at? What does the world need? And what can you be paid for? Are these very relatable questions for students, more relatable than if we called these things things like, preparing for a job or that sort of thing. So just to give you a quick overview of what's in there. So what do you love? That is the module where we talk about things like, having just the career exploration. In career speak, it's the career exploration module. So it is all those things like finding out what from your life overall gives you energy and how that might relate to, jobs that might fit there. What is your purpose in life? So we draw on things like the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a tool to help people explore that. And career interests, inventories and quizzes, that sort of thing. The second module, what are you great at? That is really the skills articulation module. Perhaps you've heard it said that students don't so much lack skills as the ability to articulate skills. Sometimes they don't realize, especially if they don't have a lot of job experience, whether from co-ops or things, extracurricular jobs that they might hold in the community and so on, they think that they have no skills. And so this is really, we use our competency framework, which is 10 core competencies that align with many of those skills that are, we call them different things: transferable skills, foundational skills, social emotional skills. You might have heard those terms. We're really trying to help students identify from all their activities, what are those skills, how do those show up, and how those might be expressed in, job search and career exploration. The third module, what does the world need? In this module, we are really trying to highlight partly we're building on the UN Sustainable Development Goals there too, in terms of problems in the world that need to be solved. Not that we're pressuring students to solve them, but how can you get how can you get experience? Whether it's through volunteer work in the community, whether that's through co-curricular activities, volunteering camp experiences that are available on campus, or other experiential learning opportunities that we offer at UVic, such as community engaged learning, where a student, for example, would be in a course and they have a 40-hour placement as part of that course where they gain experience, and of course through co-op and through jobs that they get. So how can they, while still a student, get that experience that builds on those passions and interests they've identified in the what do you love, and builds on the skills they've identified in the what are you great at, and addresses some of the gaps they might have identified. That's where we really highlight that. In the fourth module, what can you be paid for? That is where we house all the things that you might stereotypically associate with career services, such as, the how do you, target a resume to a particular job, a cover letter? How do you research the labor market? How do you succeed in an interview? And how do you, once you've got a position, how do you show up in a professional way? So that component, that's what we're covering throughout this course. Next slide, please, Jada. Thank you. Just a few other things about the approach that we take in this course. Throughout all the activities that are in these modules, we draw on 4 main tools or approaches. So one of them is design thinking. We are using that not just because it's trendy, but because a lot of students they come into career services and they're thinking like, what does somebody with my discipline? They think that they need to come out with a very definite job, and they're concerned if they're not sure what that job might be. And so we're really trying to open their minds there, sort of just broaden it, explore a wide variety of options, don't get stuck on one, experiment, that sort of thing. And then reflection, which I know Jada and Meg have highlighted as well. It's often said we don't so much learn from experience as we learn from reflection on experience. And so we really emphasize that in our activities in the course. Ubiquitous these days, of course, generative AI. UVic uses Copilot. All students have access to that tool through UVic. And we really try to encourage students to use that tool in an ethical and effective way, whether that is helping them explore in the career exploration activities, things they might not have thought of, and also helping them to use that. And I emphasize ethically and effectively here, in developing resumes and cover letters and interviews. Now, I just want to assure you there, if you're one of the employers who has received applications for jobs that seem to have been created by ChatGPT or some other tool like that, I assure you that's not from our course. This is not the way that we're trying to encourage people to use that tool. And then finally, most important, people. So that is co-operative career staff and other staff at the university that are here to support their career direction. And it's also, we're really trying to encourage students to develop that professional network as they're engaging in our course. So that's very important. At the end of the course, when they've completed it, we have a very brief 5th module, which encourages them to draw all the threads together from the other 4 modules in a career journey plan so that they finish this with some very key actionable steps that they can take. Throughout all of these activities, we have the career educators who are engaging and reaching out to students to support them. And then upon completion of this course, which is free and asynchronous and non-credit, but we do give co-curricular record credit upon completion. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Allison. So I think as Allison had highlighted, it really has tied in together how the curriculum gets used this sort of in the same curriculum throughout the career journey, throughout co-op. We're really trying to emphasize the consistency there. We just provided a whole bunch of links here at the end for you that questions that we think employers might have if you're trying to navigate our website. As I know, many websites, and ours is no exception, are hard to find all of the different things that you need. So we have, why hire a co-op student and what's involved, how to access funding and provide a safe and equitable work environment. Some information on hiring Indigenous students and our Indigenous Resource Hub, hiring international students, and how to connect with students and alumni at events. So all of this will be available afterward if you'd like to explore. And we've also provided some other links here just to some interesting things that we provide and that are going on at any given point within Co-op and Career Services. So one that has we've just had a winner announced in our co-op student photo contest. So students will take photos while on their work term and submit them. And so you can browse the gallery and see a lot of the cool things that our students are working on. We have a Work It podcast series, which just has a different topic at each session that discusses career paths, career goals, career experiences, has different guests every time. We have our Coping Career annual report if you're someone who's interested in facts and figures. And we also have some more information about what Allison touched on, which is how we're supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals and integrating that into our learning. So that is everything.
Folks, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A, which is if you select the more option, you'll be able to see the Q&A there, or feel free to unmute and ask.
Yeah, and I want to highlight also that so the employer@uvic.ca email, if you are somebody who's engaged a lot with our department and you may already have a direct contacts that you can email with whenever you have any kind of request or question. But if you're not sure where to start, no matter what you're looking for, you can just email the employer@uvic.ca email and we can get you connected with whoever can best support you.